if I just keep going. So let's let's get this started. This episode, thought I'd go into the 4th of July weekend. Um, Being that that's what we're in. Usually my 4th of July weekend would be spent. I think the family usually, well, if we weren't on vacation, we'd at least, and vacation would usually be visit relatives anywhere else in the world. But if not, we'd make the trip to Orlando and do the whole Disney thing. That was usually 4th of July weekends for us, but whatever. Um, but I still have very fun memories, and it's a great celebration. A lot of fireworks. If you're into it, I am into it at times. It's great. The last great fireworks show I saw was in Key West, right there down on the beach, which was pretty awesome. If you're ever there for 4th of July weekend, I highly recommend it. It's like 30 minutes, and you'll see everyone in town there, either high or drunk, taking care of fireworks. It'll eventually be unsafe, but for now, no accidents, knock on wood, and let's hopefully keep it that way. Speaking of which, this week pretty busy with certain work. Did go out a few times though. I went out to one club one of these nights. I don't want to mention the name of the club. It's one I do frequent a lot, and it was the first time I've been to a club, and I'm gonna say a good 80% of the club was coked up. And if you think that's not surprising, to me it is. And mind you, I lived in Miami, where I could go to a club and I'd maybe for sure know that at least 40% of the club was on coke. But this was a good 80%. And I can tell the difference between someone who's coked up or rolling or high or on something else. And when I can only tell that the only thing that's been going around this club has been a whole bunch of yayo, it's surprising, and it kind of killed the mood, man. It was because I could tell these are most of these people. It was their first time on coke, and if you've ever been around people that have been that are in their first time on coke, they get too rambunctious, too aggressive, and it wasn't fun at all. I was ready to get into a couple fights. Fortunately, I didn't. But yeah, it was pretty annoying, and it surprised me because it wasn't like that before. So maybe that's something new I should expect, or maybe it's making the big comeback. As Coke usually does in the scene, but we'll see what's up. And like I said, it reminds me back of the club days back in Miami and in South Florida, which brings us back to good stories about the nightclub scene in Miami and in South Florida. For instance, I remember there was this one night where I'm gonna go out. Oh no, my friend Lewis calls me up. And Lewis, I'm not sure if I'd mentioned Lewis in one of my previous episodes, but Lewis is this guy who he could just pick up a girl whenever. I've gone to movies with him. I remember we went to go watch American Pie in the movie theaters, and we're there watching it, and there's these two girls that walk into the movie theater, and he just calls them over and asks them, do they want to just watch the movie with us? And sure enough, the girls just sat next to us. Like, that's all he had to do. Lewis was that kind of guy. Lewis was the kind of guy that I remember we were driving down I-95. I forgot where we were going. Some car pulls up next to us with a cute girl, or from what it looked like, a cute girl, and we told her to pull off at the next. Like we started honking the horn, waving hi to her. We kind of hand gestured to have her pull over at the next exit. So she pulled over at the next exit, and Lewis went ahead and got her phone number and everything. I've seen him do that twice, where he's picked up girls during traffic. Yeah, the guy just could do it. I mean, he had he had the moves, and so there's this one night where Lewis calls me up, and it's very rare to find Lewis in being single, and this was one of the occasions where Lewis was single, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hang out with this girl. We met her at a party. Do you remember so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's a really cute girl." And he's like, "Well, look, she's coming with her friend that was there also at the party, and they'll bring along a third friend. Should we all go out somewhere?" And I remember the other girl that was at that party liked another friend of ours named Omar. Rest in peace. And so Omar came along, and I was going to be the wingman for the third girl, which none of us knew. Which I was fine. I wasn't. This was like a Monday night that we were gonna go out, and I just pretty much wanted to go out, and I didn't care about. We would take grenades every so often. By reference of taking a grenade is in military term, it's when you jump on a grenade so that no one else blows up. So taking a grenade in this scenario is like someone covering the friend that might ruin the night for the other girls, if that makes any sense. There's plenty of times where we're hanging out when you go up to a group of girls and you might be hitting it off with one girl, and then her friend might be the one who I don't know, isn't having a good time because she doesn't like the club, or she didn't want to go out in the first place, or she's not getting any attention. It could be a million things, depending on who the girl is, but that girl could ruin the night for everyone. And I was gonna take the grenade on this night to make sure that no other person would ruin the night for my boys. And so I was cool with that. Everyone met up at my house. Because my house, I basically, my parents were always traveling and stuff, so it was basically, I was the only person living there. And so we're all in my house. We do the pre-party at my house. We're getting drunk. The girls start showing up, except for the one I'm supposed to take care of. But the girls show up. "Oh, you'll like her, and we're just like, sure, I'm sure she's nice, right?" Like, we were just thinking, this is just gonna be a disaster. What's gonna walk in through the door? And sure enough, she shows up, and it's the hottest girl of all three. Like, of all three girls, she was the hottest one. And so I loved this scenario that we had planned out. So we go to the club, and we go to Nikki Beach on a Monday night, which was a hip hop night. I think it was called the Honey Pot hip hop honey, or honey bee hip hop Monday night. So it had like a bee theme or a beehive or something theme, and it was all hip hop music. And we got in and got all the hookups, mostly because Omar was a bouncer at most of the clubs in Miami, and in most of the clubs in Miami, and basically he could just walk in anywhere, wherever he knew all the bouncers, he knew all the doormen, he knew all the waitresses. Omar was the guy to be around if you wanted to just not have to deal with any drama. I remember we once went to Jimmy Z's, which I don't even know if it's called Jimmy Z's, and I don't know what it's called. If you ever go to eat at a place called Jimmy Z's on South Beach, and whatever, I don't care. Do not eat there. I remember going through the kitchen. I remember seeing stuff that's just completely disgusting, and I do not recommend you eating there. And that place is a 5-star, supposedly a 5-star restaurant, where like everything's all expensive and everything. It's not worth it. Do not waste your time. But yeah, this is one of those places where, because it becomes into a nightclub later on in the night, and I remember instead of us having to go through the line, Omar and I went through the back entrance, through the kitchen and everything, kind of like Goodfellas. So that was pretty cool that night. But anyways, I digress. Excuse me. And we were so we head out all the way to Nikki Beach, and at Nikki Beach, I remember we start drinking. We're having fun. Yeah, Lewis is with his girl. I'm talking to my girl, and then Omar. The deal about Omar was that he was always very I don't want to say open-minded, but he was very opinionated, and he would not change his beliefs or something. So he had a short temper. And I don't know what the girl had first said or something that kind of pissed him off at the beginning of the night. And then later on at the club, he bought her a drink and she didn't want it. And then he got pissed because he felt that she should have at least been more appreciative. And it sounds very stupid, but when you have a short temper, it became a big deal. To the point where, like, we're trying to calm Omar down, and Omar pretty much tells off all 3 girls. And we told the girls, look, have a good night, enjoy yourselves here in the club. We gotta leave. We gotta just basically take Omar home, because Omar got pissed and he just wanted to go home. So we get him out of the club. The girls stay at the club. We leave. And then Omar just kind of like, all of a sudden, 180, just switches attitudes there, and it's like, good, I just wanted to get rid of him. Let's go to another club. And both Lewis and I are like perplexed, and we're like, dude, we're kind of really want to get to know these girls and everything. And Omar's like, no, guys, trust me. We're just wasting our times there. Trust me on this one. Follow me. And mind you, Omar is the guy who the last time I trusted with his words, I ended up getting arrested as a minor. So, whenever I heard Omar say, trust me, I always had some hesitation. So, I'm already kind of like, man, I really want to talk to the girl a little bit more, or whatever. Anyways, we end up at Level. I think Level now, back then Level was kind of big. Before that, it was a place called the G Spot, which was just horrible. And then now it's like around where Mansion is. And you go into Level, and it was they also had like a hip hop night. And we walk into like the VIP section. We're probably like one of the few like non-blacks in the place, and we're sitting there. We get a booth. In front of us are all just like these, I'm gonna say, like music video like chicks, just like all of them just shaking their asses right in front of our table, wondering like who we are, what drinks we're gonna get. And then all of a sudden, there's just a haze of smoke coming towards us. And we look, and it's coming from the table next to us. And the table next to us happens to be Redman. Redman at the time, and I mean, I don't know about now, how many of y'all know Redman, but Redman at the time was like, other than Snoop, he at the time he was probably known as the biggest like weed smoker hip hop dude around, and he it was just covering the whole hip hop section, just the smoke that was coming out of his table, and he must have his entourage was probably like 12 dudes just all sitting around his booth, and at one point one of the dudes just comes over and sits at our table and just says, "Hey, yeah, I'm with Redman." He told us like whatever job he had or whatever. He made it sound like he was like some like manager or whatever. And then he's asking us if we could buy him a drink. And Omar, being someone that never took any shit, just told the guy to fuck off. Like, who is some dude who says that works for Redman and then is just trying to ask us for money? Not only that, but we also knew Redman's, like, I don't know if you ever saw it, but back in the day when they used to have the show MTV Cribs, if you ever watched Redman's MTV Cribs episode, you kind of realize that the dude probably, I could kind of understand why maybe someone in the entourage would probably come over to our table and ask us for drinks, but you just don't do that at VIP. So we declined, but at least we ended up getting high at that moment, and yeah. So I guess it kind of made up for how the night could have gone. I think. Oh, as for the girls, I never saw the girl that I was with ever again. I never saw the one that Omar was ever with. I did see the girl that Lewis was with once again, and she ended up at the time, I don't know now, but at the time I'd later seen her working as a stripper at Tootsie's, which is always kind of weird when you run into people that you know and you see that they've become strippers. Not that it's a bad thing or a good thing, but it's interesting, and it makes for interesting conversations when you've met them prior. I think if you meet them during or after, then it's not. It's all right. But when you met them before that, that's always like, oh, okay. So this is what you're doing now. I guess nursing school wasn't that interesting, huh? But yeah, whatever. She looked like she was doing great. So who am I to say anything, right? Another good story, which also involved Omar and its sound, involved hip hop artists and everything. I remember it was one night. It was a Monday night, again another Monday night, and I'm on South Beach, with my friend Jonathan, and we end up going to the Penguin Hotel. Now, the Penguin Hotel is like, I think it's like 10th in Collins, I'm gonna say, or 9th in Collins, 10th in Collins. And let me tell you, it's like a boutique hotel. It only has like 2 or 3 rooms. It's like a 4-story building, 2-3 rooms. So you're like, what the fuck is this hotel all about? But you got the lobby, and when you go to the left of the lobby, there's this bar that looks pretty cool. A pretty nice, spacious bar. Then on the first floor, I think they moved, but at the time, the Ford Model Agency had their Miami offices there. So the place was always packed with models running around. And then the second story of the building was like a music studio, a recording studio. And like I remember at one point, like the REM was recording there, and I remember they were like, one of the bases was actually there one night when I was there at the bar. But I don't care about REM, so it wasn't like I wasn't like freaking out or anything. And yeah, so I remember being and then the rest of the next floor is just those boutique rooms. So it was kind of like a weird place. I think the idea of the place was just some rich dude owned it, and he just didn't care what it was. It was just a place to kind of show off, I guess. But the bar was really nice, and that was our hangout spot on Monday nights. Not only that, but sometimes our friends would DJ there, and we'd check them out and everything. It's actually the first time I met a girl at that bar. Is the first time Omar and I had met a girl that had no belly button whatsoever, which was kind of creepy. She was cute, but then when she showed us that she had no belly button, that just kind of stayed in my mind and made me wonder, like, she said it was because she had an operation when she was young, and it kind of happened over the belly button, and then when they sealed it, like, the skin sealed over it, so there was no belly button. Conspiracy theory me thinks that maybe she's a clone, but I don't know. The story's still out there, but keep your eye out for people without belly buttons. I think that might be a big conspiracy theory, and I want to make sure that I'm not the only one who notices such things. Anyways, but this place is cool, the Penguin Hotel, and we'd always hang out there at the bar. And this one night I'm there with Jonathan, and Jonathan's there. He said he was gonna go meet up with a few friends. It ended up being one girl, and Jonathan always loved that he'd always say, yeah, we're gonna meet up with a couple girls, and it'd always be one girl, and I'd always be the fucking third wheel. He just loved doing that. And so I'm there, he's there with his girl. I'm just bored out of my mind. So Monday nights, I would hear that from time to time Omar was working club bed or bed lounge or whatever the fuck you want to call it, there on Washington. And so I thought I'd go check it out. So I told Jonathan I'd be right back. So I start walking towards bed. And sure enough, all I see is this big line, and there's these, searchlights in front of bed, and there's all these, like, Ferraris and Lamborghinis parked right in front. So I go up, and it's all, like, there's a red carpet and everything, and there's paparazzi taking pictures, and I'm wondering, what the fuck is going on here? So I'm looking around, and I ask the first person, like, that I see, like, what's going on here? And they tell me, oh, it's Busta Rhymes' birthday, and he's celebrating here at bed, and that's a big event. Which I was like, all right, Busta Rhymes, I get it. I like him as a rapper. He's all right. And it made sense because at the time he was living in Miami, and there was plenty of Busta Rhymes stories going throughout Miami. But I didn't think he would need paparazzi for his party. It seemed like there were guys taking pictures from The Source or Double XL magazine and all the hip hop magazines. But yeah, I don't think he needed a red carpet and searchlights and all that nonsense. So anyways, there's this big line to get in, and there's all these, everyone's just trying to get in. I'm just waiting to see when I see Omar pop out, because I know once Omar pops out, I'll probably get in. And I'm looking at the front of the line, and Lamar Odom shows up. And I know Lamar Odom because he's at 6'10", I think, 6'8". He's a tall motherfucker, and at the time he was playing for the Miami Heat, and he can't get into the club. Like, they just cut off the line. They said the club's packed, we can't let you in. So Lamar Odom, who's a basketball player, and at the time was a pretty good basketball player, could not get into the club. So this small dude just kind of pulls up next to Lamar Odom and just starts yelling at the doorman and just starts telling him, who the fuck do you think you are? We're all just trying to get into the party. And then the guy tells him, look, don't give me attitude. I'm letting you know that although there's invitations and everything, no one else can get in right now. It's too packed. You got to give us some time. The guy points to Lamar, goes, "Do you know who the fuck this guy is? He's Lamar Odom. He plays for the Heat." The doorman goes, "Yes, I know who he is, but I just can't get anyone else in." Lamar now backs off, and he doesn't know who this small dude is, and he doesn't want to be associated with him either. So he just goes, "Hey man, just leave me out of this." And the small dude just goes, "Man," to the doorman, just starts telling him off. The doorman gets right in his face, and the small guy just decks him right in the with his cell phone in his hand, just decks him and knocks the guy out, like breaks his nose and everything. The doorman falls to the ground, and the small guy just takes off running. All the other bouncers and doormen see that the other doorman's on the floor, and they all get up and start chasing the small dude. The small dude jumps into a cab, and the cab drives away. The cab only makes it down the block before it gets a red light. All the doormen and bouncers caught up to the cab, and all you hear is them yelling to the cab driver, "Go to the back alley, go to the back alley, go to the back alley." While two of the bouncers just hop into the back of the seat, and the cab driver, you could tell, does not know what to do. The one main door guy just shows up, throws a whole bunch of money at the cab driver, just wads of cash. I just see flying into the front seat, and just goes, "Just go to the back alley." He drives down the back alley, and we see all the bouncers and security guards head toward the back. Meanwhile, now the focus is on the front door, and there's no one at the front door. So at that moment, instantly, everyone goes running into the club. Everyone. I've never seen such a stampede to get into a club. So everyone's just pushing it. I see girls trip over other girls, and guys pushing other dudes. Everyone's just trying to get into the club right now because there's no one guarding the door. And 2 minutes into it, all I see is Omar and 3 other security guards just pushing everyone back out of the club and holding the door down. And Omar spots me and he goes, "Hey, what's up, man? What the fuck happened? Where is everyone?" And I go, "Look, maybe they didn't want to walkie-talkie you guys in, but everyone's in the back alley just beating the shit out of some dude." And Omar goes, "What the fuck? What happened?" He's like, "Some little dude here tried to punch the door guy in the face, so everyone went to go beat him up." And Omar's like, "Fuck, could you go see what's going on in the back alley for me?" So I say, "Alright, fine." I start walking towards the back alley, and all I see is the dude's on the floor, the small dude's on the floor, and he's got the 6 bouncers and door guys just all over him, and they're just kicking him. He's getting his ass beat, and all you see is just blood. And I walked away because I don't want to be a witness to anything of that. And I just told Omar, "Look, they're just beating the shit out of that guy. My night's done. I think I'm gonna go back to the Penguin. Hit me up if you want to drink afterwards. But yeah, man, I don't want to be a part of that." And sure enough, that was that. So that was a good little story, and that also tells you, do not punch or beat up a doorman or bouncer, because you're gonna get destroyed. No matter what, you're gonna get destroyed. I used to like Bed a lot. One of my Michael Capone, name drop. Michael Capone, who's like this real estate dude, and then would throw like these big parties and stuff. He would have some awesome parties there at Bed on Wednesday nights. I remember the first party I went to his at Bed. It was for like he did a party in conjunction with like the Red Cross, or the Salvation Army, or the Red Cross or something. And it was after 9/11, and all I remember is I go to that party and it's just packed. Like, every woman in there was a model. I remember Jim Brown was there, and Jim Brown is just surrounded by women. Michael Capone's there, every dude's there surrounded by women. There's just women everywhere. I don't. It was one of those parties where if you ever thought what like a real like South Beach kind of club party would be, that was it. And there was like free champagne everywhere, and that was insane. And that's why I always loved bed. And I remember there was one night, one of the bartender chicks that worked at Penguin, at the bar Penguin, she was also a model, and that was like her part-time job was bartending, and she wanted to start her own like night, her own music night. So she started one up at Bed on Tuesday nights, and she had one of my friends DJ, I remember. And this woman, I think her name's Samantha, and Samantha was fine as fuck, and her roommates were all fine as fuck, and my friend Chris Sabat, and we were just like really into these girls, and we just wanted to party with them. So of course Chris was down to go ahead and DJ her event, and sure enough, I always tagged along. So we're there at Bed. All I remember is just showing up. Samantha and her roommates are all on ecstasy. They're like on one of the beds. They're all making out. Amazing. Samantha tells us the after party's back at my house. It's just a few of us. You should come over. And it was basically going to be her and the roommates, from what we heard at the time. We later found out that she kind of had a thing going on with one of the other DJs that was there. And one of the things we've never respected it, back then at least, was if you were a DJ and you didn't have vinyl, like if all you did was spin CDs, or worse, if you just spinned from your laptop, we did not consider you a DJ. And here we have Chris Sabat, who had a whole bunch of collections of vinyls, and just like he knew how to mix and he knew how to DJ. And then here we have this dude who's just mixing like burnt CDs, and the dude just kind of, he also started he was hooking up the girls with the Molly and everything, and it was just like he made sure that we did not go back to the after party. And from there on out, we just had problems with that dude, and the dude had convinced Samantha not to have Sabat play anymore, so it was just him. And then I think 2 weeks later, she had to close down the night, her party there on Tuesday nights, because no one was going. I have my theories, of course, but then again, I could be biased. But yeah, it was one of those scenarios where we always think of what could have happened. And it's weird how often threesome opportunities or orgy opportunities would happen on South Beach or in Miami. And not that I've taken part in any, because I haven't. The opportunity has been there, and I've always turned it down, because either it was the matchup that I was not interested in, or it just fell apart at the end. I remember another night was this was when I was living close to FIU down in Southwest. And it was myself and 4 roommates. And this was one night where we decided to go clubbing all the way to Fort Lauderdale. So it was like an hour and a half drive. So we go to Fort Lauderdale, and it actually ends up being like 10 of us that go to Fort Lauderdale. And all good. It seems like a cool night. We go to all the bars we hit up. Like there was a bar that had like 3-for-1 drinks that we'd always hit up first. And then we would just go from one bar to the other, just around all of Fort Lauderdale. And each bar just has like crazy amount of girls, and they're all good looking and everything. And I teamed up with my roommate Gia, And we're like just going up to girls, and the problem is every time we'd go up to girls, one of the other 8 guys that were hanging out with us would just come and just completely cockblock, just with no shame whatsoever. And mind you, some of these guys had girlfriends, some of these guys were just, in relationships, and they just did not give a fuck. And they were cockblocking, and it was just horrible. And I have a certain theory about things. My rule is always the better man wins. It's my famous rule. Which, by definition, doesn't mean the better man wins. But let's say myself and my friend go after the same girl. Whoever puts in the most effort into that girl, the better effort gets the girl. And that's it. And you have to accept it. The only rules is you're not allowed to bash your friend or the other person. You got to pick up the girl with your own personality, with your own way of being. You can't do not bash the other man, because that's just stupid. If you got to bash someone else to make yourself look better, that's corny. So that was the only rule we had. But this night it was just everybody was just killing and just ruining the night, to the point where Gia and I were just pissed, and we decided to leave. Like, we all kind of carpooled, but we did not give a fuck. And Gia brought his car, and we were like, if we're leaving people behind, fuck them. They'll find their own way home. We're just pissed. So Gia and I are walking towards his car, just completely upset. And out of nowhere, we just hear, Gia. And we turn around, and it's these 4 really cute girls just running up to Gia. And they just start talking, and they ended up being like girls that went to the same high school as Gia, and that they hadn't seen each other since high school. And the girls wanted to party, and they're like, look, we just came from the bars, but they all suck. We're all going back. We all live together. We're all going back to the house. You guys should come with us. It'll be fun. So we're like, yeah, sure. So Gia and I hop into the car, and we're high-fiving each other. We're jamming. Like, Gia and I we kind of both agreed on what our favorite song was. My number 1 favorite song in the whole world, and maybe I should make it an entrance song eventually. But my favorite song of all time, for up till now, has been Erasure, A Little Respect. So this is us blasting Erasure, A Little Respect. And mind you, these girls lived in Davie, which I know I've complained about Davie in episodes before, where it's just as redneck and as KKK as South Florida could get. And here we are blasting Erasure, A Little Respect out the window, and like heading towards these girls, where these girls live. And we just did not give a fuck. And we're just all excited. We get to the house, and we're there. The girls start smoking and getting drunk and everything, and we're all having a great time. And Gia leaves with one of the girls. Like, they said they were gonna go buy cigarettes at a gas station. So he takes off and leaves with one of the girls, and I'm left with the other 3, which I'm great. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And the girls are getting very friendly and touchy, and everything seems like it's going great. And then all of a sudden, some dude just walks into the house. And this dude was like a 40-year-old looking dude who has his hair all spiked up and like dyed red, just neon red. And he's wearing like leather pants and like a see-through black shirt. The dude looks very like he's trying too hard, and like to be a rocker or something. And he walks in, and he grabs one of the girls, and he just starts making out with her. And I'm like, alright, well, at least that's just one less girl, right? And I can still talk to the other 2. And then the other one and then one of the girls just goes straight to sleep. So now it's just two girls and the guy, and the other girl goes to change. So now it's a couple, and they go over to the kitchen, and I'm there sitting in the living room. But you could, from the living room, you can hear everything that goes on in the kitchen. So the couple's talking. There's nothing going on. There's like no TV on, or there's no radio on. So I'm basically hearing their conversation. And they start talking about their day or whatever, and then the guy goes something like, "So, are we all gonna have fun?" And she goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. The girls are waiting." And then he goes, "Well, how about him?" And I know they're talking about me. She's like, "Oh, I just met him. He's friends with a friend of mine from high school, who left with so and so." "Oh, so is he joining in?" And she's like, "I don't know. I don't know if he's into it." And he goes, "Well, I can find out for us." And she goes, "No, no, no, no. I'll find out for us." And he's like, "Okay." So I heard this, and now I'm kind of creeped out because I don't know what's going on. So sure enough, they leave the kitchen, and the girl comes back from changing in her room, and they all join me in the living room. And the two girls are getting really close to me, and just like, one of them is kind of like massaging my back, the other one's just kind of like being very flirtatious with me, and this dude just smiling at me and looking at me, just like if I'm dinner. And I'm freaking the shit out, and I get on my phone and I just start calling Gia. Like, Gia, pick me up. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but there's this creepy dude here. You gotta get me the fuck out of here. I can't be here. This dude's creeping me out. And yeah, Gia came back. He said that all he did was just talk to the girl. He tried to make out with her somewhere, but she just was like, she kind of had a boyfriend and she wasn't interested. So that when I called was the best. It was Gia's way of getting out of that scenario as well. And we took off, and I think I think Gia told me he never kept in touch with the girls ever again, but he had heard rumors from other guys that they had kind of gotten into like some freaky shit, and that they would probably that they were hitting up the fetish factory and stuff like that. Which, if you've ever been to South Florida, you got to check out the fetish factory. And the fetish factory is, I've been there several times. I've had friends DJ there, or perform there as well. But it's basically an S&M bondage nightclub party theme, which it's one of the craziest and weirdest shit you'll ever see, 'cause it's people like in latex, like caged, or like in those what do you call, I don't even know what you call them, like it's when, like a barracks kind of holding thing, where back in the day in the 70s, and like in the 17th century and stuff, where they'd lock you up in like this wooden thing where you'd stick your head out and your hands would be also in it, and you would be pointed out as being like the local drunk or whatever. Like, it was just basically people locked up in cages or locked up in those, and they'd get whipped, and just it's a whole thing. It's a whole community of bondage and S&M stuff. I remember you could go outside, and next to the fetish factory was this hotel, actually a motel, and what this guy would rent out two adjoining hotel rooms, and he would sell all these bondage equipments that he built himself. His name was like the Colonel or something, and it was just this dude like who was in his 70s, who'd wear like this leather like motorcycle cap, and just just a dude who just he looked wrong. He looked wrong, and he'd sell all this equipment, and he'd have this big uh banner in the front of the bedrooms that just basically what was it? It had the letters and everything like it was the Home Depot, but instead of saying the Home Depot, it said like the Bondage Depot. And you'd walk in, and he'd let you test out all these like equipment that he had in there. Like he had a St. Andrew's cross, and I remember at one point he gets this dude, and he just tells him, all right, do you want to test out the St. Andrew's cross? The guys go, okay, sure. So he ties him up, and he just starts, here, look, let me show you a whip that I made. And he just starts whipping the dude. The dude's getting off on it. Here's the colonel just smoking a cigar while whipping this dude, just with a big smile on his face. And then it's me and my friends, and we're just looking at what's going on, really creeped out, and we just exit as fast as possible. And it's one of those things where you just have to see once in your life, just to know that there's people out there in the world, and you can accept them for who they are. And you know, be proud that they're into they're that open, I guess sexually, and that there's ways they can express it in the community. But it gets a little weird, especially one where it's these dudes that are trapped in like saran wrap, and like all they have is just like a like a snorkel mask, so then they can breathe out. But the rest of them they're all in saran wrap, so they can't move, they can't do anything. All they can do is breathe, and it's just the creepiest, scariest thing, just to know that there's someone in saran wrap, and people are just like, you don't even want to know what people are doing to this person. So if you're in South Florida, definitely check out the Fetish Factory. I don't know if it's still even allowed to be done, but it was always very entertaining. Yeah. Another which kind of goes into this. In Key West, this is when I was living in Key West. There's this party called Fantasy Fest that goes on kind of 2 weeks before Halloween. And it's kind of like the Mardi Gras Key West, where basically, you know, all the women get into body paint, and there's like parades and everything, and people just get drunk and naked and just very sexually liberated. And my friend was hired to like help build some props for this sex party that was going to happen there. And so my friend was also someone who kind of knew like the scene, because he'd go to the Fetish Factory, so he started building all the stuff that he could remember from the Fetish Factory. And he built St. Andrew's crosses, he built some other stuff, and sure enough, the party was just filled with a whole bunch of bondage equipment. And I remember I went to the party because it was Ron Jeremy was going to be at the party, and I always wanted to meet him, so I got to meet him. I had a picture with him. I'm still trying to find that picture, but it both looks we both look so fucking tired in that picture that I don't. We look horrible, but it was cool meeting him. And I remember I met this girl at that party who was dressed up as the movie that just came out was Aeon Flux with Charlize Theron, and she looked just like Charlize Theron in Aeon Flux, with her hair the same way, the outfit the same way, everything. And I remember I met her and we're hitting it off. We get along great. We're basically just dry humping throughout that whole place. And I remember we became friends with one of the bartenders there. And That dude was hooking us up with drinks and everything. And then we leave the party. We head back to her hotel, and the bartender guy came along. And then sure enough, all I know is I'm thinking, I'm gonna get into the. We're like sneaking into the hotel pool, and I know the hotel because it happens to be the Westin Hotel where where the jet ski company that I work for is at. So I know the hotel. I know everything. I know I shouldn't be in the pool, much less the jacuzzi, and much less there at like 3 o'clock in the morning. But this chick takes me to the pool. She gets naked. She tells me to hop in. I'm kind of thinking about it. Before I know, the bartender dude just gets naked, hops into the pool. So they're naked, and they're telling me to get in. Now I'm really uncomfortable because this wasn't how I was planning things to go. And sure enough, the security guards start showing up, and they all know me. So they tell me, Eddie, come on, man, you can't be here. You know the rules. I'm already having neighbors complain that they're seeing naked people in the jacuzzi. Could you guys take the party back to the hotel room? I'm like, all right, sure, no problem. So we go back up to the hotel room, and she's again just completely naked. He's completely naked. They start getting it on, and I just I do not want to be there. And she's asking me to join in. He's asking me to join in. The problem is he's from Cuba, and he did not know a lick of English, and she's American, and she did not know a lick of Spanish. So he wanted me around to help translate as well. And I just was not feeling comfortable, and she just wanted a threesome to happen, and I was no. And so basically I left. And yeah, that was another very weird scenario. And then from then on out at the resort, all the security guards just knew me as the dude who was in the threesome. Even though I told them I wasn't, that they would not they would not believe me. So, oh well. A funny thing is, a month later, I was at the supermarket, and I ran into that bartender dude. He comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, how are you? I want you to, and all in Spanish, of course. Hey, how are you? By the way, I want you to meet my wife, so and so." And I think he did that so then I wouldn't come up to him and say something like, "Hey, so how did things end up with that girl?" He played it smart enough to know that he had to tell me that was his wife. But then again, it's messed up where you think, man, I had other things in mind that night. You showed up. You kind of killed it for me because I wasn't interested in your plans. And not only that, but you're married. Come on, dude. And that usually happens to be a lot of the stories when it comes to threesomes and foursomes and orgies. I don't think I've ever seen a threesome or foursome opportunity where it's just everyone happens to be single. There's always someone that's cheating or something that shouldn't be happening. So maybe some of y'all have better experiences though. So if you do, I guess next time we see each other, why don't y'all fill me in? To that being said, we're almost at the hour mark. Very interesting conversation, I guess. I don't know how it got into what it did, but I guess we'll leave it at that. And I don't know what it really has to do with 4th of July, but once again, happy 4th of July weekend to everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed. And keep in touch. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.